It's time to pull those belts tight, race fans. The front stretch is coming at you, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor and Dirk Houston.
Fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river in Council Bluffs. Make sure you get over to Joe's today and take advantage of the final week that you can get into the Hammerhead drawing. All you have to do, go over to Joe's Karting, ask for the Hammerhead race. You get to race, and you get entered into the drawing to win a Hammerhead ATV. That drawing is going to happen this coming Saturday on December 17th, so make sure you get over there and get as much racing in as possible. Again, that's over at Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
If you win it and don't want it, I do accept Christmas gifts.
Absolutely. We will take that donation. And can I borrow it for when I work the pits at I-80?
Sure.
Thank you.
Rent it anyway.
Oh, boy. We'll talk rental fees here in a little bit. We got a great show lined up for you today. In turn number one, if I could find my notebook, I've spread out all over the studio here. Turn number one, we're going to talk about the latest in NASCAR news, well, at least the latest as of Thursday afternoon when we recorded, because Lord knows things just love to happen right after we record the show.
Yep. Whether we record on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, it doesn't make any difference.
And we got a lot to talk about, too, because NASCAR decided, oh, wait, Dan and Dirk recorded on Tuesday? Let's make the sponsor announcement on Wednesday. And that was of the previous week.
Yeah.
So we didn't get to talk about it during last weekend's
Even
show.
though we were right about it.
Yeah. It was... You could hear it on the walls. It was all coming down to the same thing. But
it was a well-kept secret.
Yeah. Yeah. They could have taken some notes from Stewart Haas Racing on how to keep a secret, right?
Evidently.
But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Junior getting cleared to race in 2017. All the news, including we may have a new manufacturer. Well, a new old manufacturer, I guess. We'll talk about all that kind of stuff.
Plenty of scuttle.
In turn number one. Then turn number two, we're going to start a new feature where we're going to feature different organizations in NASCAR each weekend. So this weekend, I figured it'd only be fitting to start off with the championship organization. We'll focus on Hendrick Motorsports. Then turns 3 and 4, we finally kick off the Legends of the Dirt Series. Ray Lee Goodwin will join us to talk about his career in sprint cars, getting his start in the Kansas City area, winning at Knoxville for the Nationals, getting inducted into the Sprint Car Hall of Fame. We got a lot to talk about with Ray, and so we will do that in turns 3 and 4. Again, coming up in turn number 1, let's talk about some of the news and notes, and let's start off with the one that NASCAR snuck right by us and announced the day after we recorded for last weekend's show, and that was that Monster Energy Drink will now be the entitlement sponsor. Now, whether it's going to be the Cup Series, whether it's going to be the Monster Cups, they don't really know yet. In fact, when Brian France was asked, hey, what does this mean? What is the level of sponsorship? And they said, well, we're still kind of working out a lot of the finer details, which kind of points out that NASCAR, that they've agreed that Monster will pay X amount of dollars to be the title sponsor for the series, but they still haven't finished.
And it's a lot of millions every year.
Right, and they still haven't finished all of the details as far as what that's going to mean for NASCAR, for fans, and for Monster. There's an opportunity there that if Monster signed a smaller deal than Sprint did, that maybe NASCAR is able to go out and sell a second sponsorship for the chase. So the early season will be the Monster Series, and then, who knows what they're able to do. But from what I understand with all the sponsorship conversation, that was their main goal, was to not get locked down with one main sponsor and center the sport in one direction, that they're able to open it up and work on multiple avenues.
The only other sponsor I can see coming in to fulfill their national destiny would be Lucas Oil.
Yeah.
I mean, now between Monster and Lucas Oil, you can say who sponsors that. Say those two, and you're 99% right.
Right.
Monster, there was a lot of scuttle. Why didn't they pick Red Bull? Why didn't they pick, whoever the other energy drinks were? Well, Monster, if they were going to go in an energy drink, was kind of like an automatic, with the fact that they're in with Coke, because Coke is the official drink of NASCAR. That's why NASCAR dropped Gatorade and went with Powerade 12, 13 years ago, whatever it was. I was in on that deal, and I was like, this is crazy, because Gatorade was like Winston. They had been so good to the sport for so long. To kick them to the curb. I mean, and they didn't kick them completely to the curb. They still got the Gatorade 125s and stuff, but they don't have near the exposure that they once did.
Well, and we saw that when Nextel came in, because Alltel and there was several carrier sponsorships that had existing contracts, and NASCAR said, okay, well, you guys could finish out your contracts and you're grandfathered in, but no new cellular comes in, and once you end your contract, you don't get it back.
And that's what happened. They got Robbie Gordon early because AT&T bought Singular, and AT&T couldn't come in, so he lost his Singular deal.
Yeah. Anyway, so Monster Energy is the new title sponsorship for I guess we're going to have to start calling it the Premier Series until we find out what they're going to call it, which, by the way, since we recorded on Thursday, they'll probably announce that on Friday or Saturday afternoon. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be the NASCAR Monster Energy Premier Cup Series.
Yeah. The biggest news to hit throughout the week was Dale Jr. medically cleared to enter the 2017 season. Oh, thank the racing lords, Dale Jr. is back. Oh, by the way, we managed to survive without him.
But he's got 3 months to screw that up.
Right.
Well, 2.5 months.
He'll be doing some testing in the offseason as they get ready for Daytona. Remember, NASCAR has said that NASCAR has banned drivers and organizations from testing at NASCAR event tracks. So they can't go and test at Richmond. They can't go and test at Watkins Glen. If they want to go and test, they have to pick a track that's similar to it and then go test there. But there's a exemption for medical, and Dale obviously hasn't been in the race car for, I think, 18 races.
I was going to say about half the
16?
season, a little over half the season. But,
So-
I mean, they run, NASCAR runs tests at Daytona anyway, a month before the race. And Goodyear, anytime they make a new tire for a track or redesign a tire for a track, they always have tire tests. So there are plenty of tests run on the actual racetracks. But
yeah, and
not
NASCAR
like it used to be.
NASCAR used to allow the teams to do it, but they allowed the teams to do it at their at any track. They can go out and test at
Any
tracks.
track, anytime. Chevrolet would rent Michigan Speedway, or Ford would rent Michigan Speedway and bring all their teams up for a test. And
And then it got to be a money thing because it was so much money to rent these tracks and to spend the tires and the days and all that stuff. So then NASCAR said, okay, well, to help you guys save money, we're going to reduce it down to a certain amount of tests. So I think teams could only test up to 4 times, right?
I believe it's 4, yes.
And then teams started paying other teams to go and test for the data information. So NASCAR said, damn it, guys. We're trying to save money here, and you guys are still spending all the money, and it's hurting the little teams. So no more tests unless it's us sanctioned for aero information or for aero package information, or if it's Goodyear, then they could do tests. And so then that's what's really reduced it. But Dale will be able to go and race, or will be able to test, and that's a really smart thing because NASCAR you don't realize how fast this sport can pass up drivers. But we got a real big glimpse of it with Jeff Gordon. He was out of the car for the first 16, 18 races of the season, and then when Dale Jr. got hurt, he came in and filled in, and that guy couldn't sniff a top 10 for a while. It's Jeff Gordon. He'd been doing it long enough.
Well, then he came back to Martinsville and had a great run.
Yep.
But Martinsville, I mean, nothing matters. Aero doesn't matter at Martinsville.
It's technique.
It's
technique.
That's so much driver at Martinsville. It's ridiculous.
So Dale will be able to test, and that's a great thing because then he'll be able to kind of get his bearings back as far as reaction time and getting out there. And then he'll have all of the practices at Daytona and all the competition and the exhibition races. So he'll have plenty of time to get back in the car for 2017.
Yeah, don't worry about it, Earnhardt fans. He's going to be on plenty of simulators over the winter and everything else, but he does have a wedding coming up, and I'm sure he's helped picking out the flowers for that. So,
could Dodge be making their return?
return?
Is it the third or fourth time they're coming back?
I think it'll actually just be their second comeback, maybe third.
Okay. But they announced this week, there was conversations that were had that said that they could start exploring coming back. And now the big conversation is, well, if they're going to come back, what team are they going to join with? I mean, when Toyota came in, it was Joe Gibbs Racing and Michael Waltrip Racing that switched over to start running with Toyota and helped get them off the ground. There's not a lot of opportunities out there for Dodge to come in, and the more that if Dodge is able to get their way back into the sport, that really shrinks the Chevy coverage because Chevy's the one that has the most cars out there, hands down.
Well, the biggest reason is some of these smaller teams can go to Hendricks or somebody like that and buy used parts, and use them. I mean, there's these guys, the big teams I mean, from A-frames to everything, shocks are all rebuildable, so that's not a big deal. But even like A-frames, with a ball joint in it or something, they will literally, use it for one race, and then it might get magnafluxed or something, but I'll guarantee the ball joints get replaced. There's brand new brake rotors at every race. It's crazy the amount of stuff that goes, let's say 650 miles, 500 miles or 400 miles in a race, and then the practice time. And then it's done. It doesn't work. I mean, 95% of the engine components, the block probably gets used 2 or maybe 3 times, cylinder heads once or twice, but everything rolls down the line.
Then do they get refreshed and sent down to like an Xfinity team or to a lower cup team?
It depends. Lower cup teams would have to buy it from another team unless there's somehow a satellite or a test team. That's like when Brad Keselowski had his brother, when his brother was racing a Dodge independently, and Penske was still, with Dodge. Brian Keselowski ran a lot of test equipment for Penske because it didn't cost him nothing, and he got to go race.
Yeah.
He got in the Daytona 500 that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting to see if Dodge gets back into the sport, how many teams they're able to pull to to their side. And I think one organization that I keep saying this, but apparently I couldn't be any more wrong, but why wouldn't Roush Fenway entertain the idea of switching manufacturers?
Because they're the flagship for the engine program.
Well, but they're not holding any flag for anything.
They're making the horsepower for Penske.
Right, they're making the engines, but they're not doing much. I mean, Ford's obviously not helping them out with aero packages
I'm sure they're getting all the information from Ford.
They're
just
you're
not
saying
putting
is,
it on the track.
What you're saying is that the manufacturer is not the issue at Roush.
I don't believe so, because it's the same thing that I'm sure Penske's getting.
Right.
And I just think the Penske engineers are doing a lot more work, whether it's at home in the wind tunnel or whether they're just a tick sharper. That's where I believe Roush's big problem is. But I think if Dodge comes back, my number one candidate would be the Penske team to go back, just because the only reason they went to Ford is because Dodge ran away.
Yeah.
And I don't care where Dodge comes into the ballpark at, where they decide to show up at, there's going to be a big check written to get in the door.
I'm not so sure Penske would switch back, because remember, Dodge got out of the sport not because they were winning and doing such great things. This is the same thing as it's really similar to the Stewart-Haas racing situation with Tony Stewart and Darian Grubb. After Tony won his championship in 2011, everyone's like, well, why don't you just re-sign Darian? Well, because for the first 26 races of the season and the other year that he raced with him, they didn't really do anything together. It wasn't until that last 10 races that they really put something together, and it wasn't until Dodge's final year in Cup that Brad was able to put a championship together and go win the championship. Penske has been much more successful under the Ford banner than
they
they've
don't
been.
have a championship, though.
But
Brad, and that's all that counts, man. Ask those guys. That's all
I know, but they've gotten
counts.
so close. You don't go with a one-time wonder. Yeah, Dodge won the championship for you 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
No, it's you won the championship in a Dodge.
Yeah.
Dodge didn't win the championship.
Right.
Ford don't win the championship. Toyota don't win the championship.
If it wasn't for a Jack Bolt, we'd be talking about Penske having one championship with Ford with Joey Logano.
Yeah.
And Logano's been much stronger consistently throughout the year. Brad has his really hot points where nobody can get around that guy. But then when it comes down to a full season, he's just had issues putting it all together. Joey's been much more consistent and been able to last. I think he's been in the championship round 3 years.
No, because 2 years ago was when he got into it.
2 years ago was when it fell off the Jack Bolt. Last year was the 2015 season was when he got into it with Kenseth, and he didn't make it into the
Final Four.
So then
right.
This year, the 16 season, he did. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 2. We're going to talk Hendrick Spotlight. We'll talk about the drivers, who's staying around, who's up for a contract negotiation, and who may be heading down the road. We'll come back here on the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
We're hooked up in turn 2 and still showing the green flag on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 2. It's time to talk about team spotlights. I thought this would be something nice to do. Kind of spotlight the team, because now we're talking about the off season, and the silly season's in full swing. So who's going to be moving where, what's going on with all these different organizations. It's hard to keep track in the offseason when, we're kind of focusing on football right now with the playoffs getting ready to start for the NFL and college. Apparently, they've gone crazy. And, oh, by the way, the selection committee, thank you very much for looking worse than NASCAR does when it comes to your playoff series. Thank you very much for that. I felt very good about everyone that just hated on NASCAR for this chase system and the way that the teams get in and all this stuff. And then NCAA comes in and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. You lost the game, or we're going to let you in anyways?
Well, they've got to let teams in with lost games.
Yeah, I know.
Otherwise, there'd only be one playoff game, and it'd be Western Michigan against Alabama.
Yeah.
And I don't really think anybody wants to see that game, except Western Michigan.
Alabama fans
well,
want to see
but
that.
Western Michigan would like to see it, too, because they got shut out, and they're 12-0.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the Hendrick Spotlight. 4 drivers over there. We'll start off with Casey Kane, who is under contract, by the way, until 2018. By the looks of things, most of his sponsors are up at the end of 2017. So Casey's going to need to get some signatures to re-sign and figure out where he's headed.
Didn't he have one of them? Was it Farmers? Somebody re-signed this year with him.
Farmers did re-sign, but they also announced that they are ending their sponsorship at the end of 2017 with Casey Kane.
Oh, so they just re-signed for 1 year. Okay.
Yeah, they've got 12. Let's see.
I know they'd re-sign, though.
Sorry, I read that. I was trying to find that somewhere. I'd read that. Maybe that was last year's season, but they did announce that 2017 would be their final year with Hendrick Motorsports. So Casey is signed through 2018. He has sponsors through 2017, and the big speculation is if 17's not the turnaround year that they've needed, this could be his final year with Hendrick Motorsports in that 5-car.
Well, and he did show marked improvement the last 10 or 12 races of 2016, but it still was not a year to be proud of.
By far the worst of the team. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because Dale Earnhardt's 18-race absence put him in 32nd. But Casey Kane, who finished the season out, 3 top 5s, 3 top 5s is the most to speak for, by the way. 2 DNFs, finished 17th in the point standings. Just been rough for him. It hasn't worked for him over there, which is really odd.
It's weird because he ended up 17th in points, and I bet if you go back and look at his average finish, I'll bet that's real close to where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I can go back and look at it through NASCAR.com. I'll try to pull it up real quick, but it's that 5-car. Joe Kaziski has a theory that 5-car is cursed because just about everybody that's sat in it has been a quality driver that has struggled. I mean, the last driver to sit in that 5-car, that to my recollection, was Kyle Busch, and we're talking about him 1 season off of a championship.
Yeah, but he was also in there, brand new into Cup, so basically rookie coming in.
Yeah.
And he's matured so much now.
Yeah, it's a different world for him now, but Casey definitely has got to turn things around. To have a rookie come in like Chase Elliott, finish 7 spots to the good of Casey, much better finishes.
Well, and came a lot closer to winning a race than Casey did all
year. Absolutely came a lot closer than you're right. Casey's got to find something, or he's going to have to start working on a deal with another team. And that's not to say, we don't mean to say that Casey's a terrible driver because of this. That's not it at all. We've seen it with Matt Kenseth, who dried up at Roush Fenway, moved over to Joe Gibbs Racing, started winning right away. Carl Edwards dried up at Roush Fenway. Maybe that's the common denominator. Moved over to Joe Gibbs Racing. Maybe that's, again, another common denominator, and he started winning. Kyle Busch went over to Kent. It's fresh starts can be paramount for a driver.
No, that can be one thing, and something that I've personally noticed is when these drivers have kids, like Casey had a kid a year ago, they got other stuff on their mind a lot of times. It was something I think that affected Carl. Mm-hmm. Carl's career kind of stalled. It also happened to be as Roush was kind of backing up and everything else, it was all at the same time. But Carl was having a couple kids, Now, it hasn't affected everybody. Kyle Busch was still out there having a new baby.
Yeah, I think it went the opposite way for Kyle. I think it calmed him down.
Well, getting married calmed him down.
Yeah. Well, he'd been married for a couple of years before, right?
Well, yeah, but I think it took the married life is what really, changed his attitude, so to speak.
By the way, Casey Kane, average finish of the 2016 season, 15.6.
So 16th.
By the way, average start 16.9, so 17th.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of car he drove all year, was 16th, 17th place car. So, finishing 17th in points was, very relevant for him.
Yeah. Next car on the list, the 24th Chase Elliott, Rookie of the Year, 10 top fives, 2 poles, 2 DNFs, finished 10th in the standings, and he is signed through 2018. Chase is off to a great start. Now, the big question is, can he continue it for a sophomore season? Because there's always that sophomore slump.
Absolutely. I mean, we can just look real back just a couple of years ago to Kyle Larson for that, and there hasn't been anything truer. And took Kyle a couple of years, but he finally got in the winner's circle after destroying a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the kid can drive. They can both drive. Chase Elliott came up, I think, a little bit slower than what Kyle Larson did. Spent a little more time in the Xfinity Series, which maybe seasoned him a little better for the stock cars, where Kyle came out of the open wheel ranks. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if Chase Elliott's ever been to a sprint car race, let alone driven one. I think he grew up in late models and everything. So,
yeah. I don't believe he's been in a sprint car, not to my knowledge at least.
So, I mean, he's just always been in a stock car, the heavier car with, not near the horsepower and not near the tires. It's definitely something different to drive, as McKenna Haase told us when we interviewed her a couple weeks back. I think Chase is going to do just fine.
He's just got this calmness to him that's really amazing, frankly.
Well, and he just watched his dad do it so often. I mean, every picture you see of him, of his dad, there's Chase by his side, grew up in it. So, that's and that's something that's anybody can learn it. But it takes work. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he just grew up with it. I imagine he was doing interviews that never showed up anywhere when he was 5 years old.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times you saw Dale Earnhardt Jr. getting a mic shoved in his face.
Yep.
So I'm sure it was happening to Chase, too.
Next car on the docket, the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, 5 wins on the season. By the way, I believe he led all active drivers with wins on the season. I think there was like a 4 or 5-way tie with 4 wins. And that win at Homestead got Jimmy Johnson his 5th and most win on the season. He has 5 top 5s. Oddly enough, 4 DNFs. He ties the organization with most DNFs. Finished with the championship. His contract is over in 2017. I don't see any issue with him re-signing.
I just see what 2017 brings. If it's another good season. If he'd win his 8th title, he might call it. He might go ahead and walk. Go out on top type of deal. Mm. But the only other way I see him walking away is if he would get hurt and couldn't continue to race. But if he doesn't win the title, I see him re-signing.
And do you think we could see, because we all talked about it, midway through the season, this wasn't a testing thing. This wasn't Chad Knaus pulling a fast one on the rest of the world. They really struggled at Hendrick Motorsports and with that 48 organization, that 48 team. They really struggled midway through the season. Do you think we could see that expand a little bit in 2017?
No, they got out of line somewhere. They probably started experimenting or tried a couple things and just got lost and had to go back to the beginning and then get caught back up. I've seen that happen with, dirt teams a lot, where you'll see a driver that's just cleaning house, and then he'll just get lost one time, and then he's lost for a couple months.
Yeah.
And then he shows up again and, gets back to where he was before. And I think that's what happened to Jimmy. But I'm starting to honestly believe with 7 championships that a lot of the stuff on Facebook where it says he's cheating, I'm starting to believe some of that.
I don't believe it at all. I don't believe that at all. All right, the final driver we're going to talk about only raced 18 races this year before he was removed with concussion-like symptoms. That's the 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. During his 18 races, 5 top 5s, 4 DNFs, finished 32nd because no races for 18 races. Yeah. He was not really in contention for the chase when we went into the 18th race and he decided to pull himself out of the car. He was really starting to slip back and not really showing a lot of gusto to be able to get up in there. So I didn't have much faith that Dale Earnhardt Jr. was going to be a part of the chase contenders for the 2016 season, although he started off the year strong.
Strong?
Yeah.
I think he got me 2 points at Daytona in the Daytona 500. Maybe it was 1 point. He didn't start out that strong.
Well, I was kind of talking about the
After
first
Daytona.
10 or so. Dale signed through 2017, and he has said do not expect him to be retiring anytime soon.
Oh, he's having too much fun.
Yeah.
And he's the most popular driver. How can you race, a half a year, finish 32nd in points, and you're still the most popular driver? That's just insane for the 14th time, I think they said.
Yeah, it's really no contest. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We're going to sit down with Ray Lee Goodwin and talk the Legends of the Dirt Series. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Joe's Karting is giving away a Hammerhead ATV to one of its members on December 17th. All you have to do is get to Joe's and do some racing. Purchase a 16-lap Hammerhead race for $20 plus tax and you're in. On December 17th, Joe's will open the registration box and one lucky customer will win a Hammerhead GTS 150 or a Hammerhead Torpedo. Get to joeskarting.com for more details and rules. It's time to get to Joe's Karting and find out what all your friends already know.
Quaker Steak and Lube is helping you end the holiday season with a bucket of cash. Stop in before New Year's Eve, purchase a $25 gift card, and receive a scratch card. You could take home $10,000, wings for a year, or other great prizes. Stop in today, and while you're enjoying all-you-can-eat wings on Tuesday or their weekday happy hour from 4 to 6, make sure you grab a $25 gift card and a scratch ticket for your chance to win $10,000.
Got to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Heading into turn number 3, and it's time to talk to this weekend's Legends of the Dirt Series. And this weekend we're talking to a sprint car guy who got his start as his, I believe your dad raced...
Brother.
Looks like, your brother raced Coops. Okay, Ray Lee Goodwin. Ray, how you doing this morning, sir?
Very good, and thank you for calling. I appreciate the information on you guys and find out about you.
Well, there's not much to know. I'm pretty much a blank canvas, but Dirk's got a lot of color to him.
All right.
We wanted to talk to you about your racing career, how it all got started. So if you don't mind, let's kind of cover the beginnings of it all. How did you get started in dirt racing?
Well, I was with the Elmer Lane organization in Kansas City. There was a little track called Olympic Stadium, and you got baptized there, and if you made it there, then you went other places. Elmer was a machinist and made all his own equipment. You know what I'm saying? And he said if you can beat him at Olympic Stadium, you can beat him anywhere in the country. And it was a pretty damn true statement, because when they opened that Knoxville deal up after Robbins, I think there was about 7 or 8 people from Olympic Stadium that won that rascal until they brought in that kid from Indiana, and he queered it all for everybody.
I'm not real big with.
That was Mr. Steve Kinzer.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
He queered it. Him and Wolfgang and a few of them. We when we were there, it was Opperman and we'll say
Kenny Weld.
Kenny Weld was there, and Jerry and Greg and Jerry Blundy out of Galesburg, Illinois, and just a lot of great racers up there. And that was I went there in about '63.
Weren't the Weld boys from down in the Kansas City area somewhere?
Yes, 27th and right there on 27th Street, just above the police station, what made it damn convenient.
Yeah. From what I hear for those guys, they probably had a reserved room downstairs.
Oh no, they were really, really good, tough racers, and they were way ahead of the game as far as building equipment to really race. They were just all of them engineers, just like Elmer Lane. We started with GMCs, and they started with flatheads, and right off the bat, flathead had about 280 inches or 283, and he started with a GMC. He had 304 before he ever started the engine. You had him beat by probably 25 anyway there.
Yeah.
In cubic inches, I mean.
Yeah.
Now you don't say anything about the cubic inches. It's cubic money.
And cubic dollars.
Cubic dollars, yeah. There you go.
Let's go back to the beginning days. Was it always racing for you once your brother started racing, or did you ever have opportunities to go pursue other adventures in life?
Well, I was a baseball player.
Yep.
My father was a baseball man, and we was raised on a dairy farm right there at the sports complex, where you go. They're playing their football there tonight at I see it's called Chiefs. The Chiefs are over there tonight, and that was at Blue Ridge Cutoff and about 43rd Street. So
Arrowhead Stadium.
Independence.
Yep.
Arrowhead Stadium. Before that it was called Truman Sports Complex and whatever. And that's where I was born and raised, right there in Independence, just on the kind of the south side of Independence.
So how come you didn't pursue the baseball career more?
Boy, you're just dropping right into the hat. I was playing baseball right behind where the Black Hall of Fame is there in Kansas City on 18th and Paseo. And now this is getting back where before we had a major league team here in Kansas City, we were the Kansas City Blues. And so they said that the Philadelphia Athletics were coming to town, and every ballpark, really from the inner city, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Every ballpark had a scout there, and your coach would come and say, "Do your best today. We got people watching," and all that stuff. So I'm right behind the Black Hall of Fame there, the Negro Hall of Fame. I think that's the way you. I don't know how you be precise, but that's what it was. And a guy was sitting there, and I was kind of legged out of infield hit, and I'm really a chugging, and always short-legged and heavy. But anyway, I legged out of a thing, and the guy says, "Come here, youngster." Well, that's not a good thing to ask when you're trying to make a baseball team. He says, "Come here, youngster." He says, and I went over there, and I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "You're the only youngster that I ever saw when you're running to first base and the dust comes up in front of you." He said, so my hook into racing, then I said, well, hell, I got to get in a race car to get to first base. So there you go.
So that's how you got in there.
Hey, they're both playing in the dirt, and you turn left.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, you still hit people, You still have to hit the ball, But anyway, that's kind of. My father was a great ball player and things like that, and he and mother both did not. None of them ever watched me sit in a race car, not even to take a picture. But Daddy always went to watch me catch baseball.
There you go.
Yep. When catching baseball was over, Daddy stayed at home. So anyway, that's enough of that.
Your brother Jimmy was the one that got the bug started in you? Yeah,
Jimmy, brother Jimmy was probably I had three older brothers, and there's just the two of us left, Richard and myself.
Okay.
But Philip was a bricklayer. Jimmy was a mechanic and worked for Sears. Richard was an auctioneer and never worked a day in his life. And then I was a truck driver and supposedly a race driver and other farmer and all them other things wrapped into one guy.
Well, I think some would agree that you were a little bit more of a race car driver than you're giving yourself credit for.
Well, you got to talk to somebody. Some people don't. So anyway, you know how I introduced myself? Some say I did, and some say I didn't. So that kind of covers it all.
All right. Well, that you can neither confirm nor deny.
That's correct.
Sounded like a politician now.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah.
So your brother started racing the Coops. Were you in the pits with him working? Is that how you got exposed to it?
No, I watched him, and okay. I tell you how we get to see they flat-toed back then, and he was just driving a car out of Highway Auto Salvage, which was kind of a good place. If you work for a auto salvage, you always got another car coming, but he he drove for Highway Auto Parts, and then getting started with I was at his first race at Riverside Stadium, and we had characters in Kansas City forever, and the two boys that he worked with, we grew up with, was the Cloovers. They bought a car at Riverside Stadium as they was coming into the pits, and it was number 124. And so Jim ran out and got his helmet and come in there, and they was going to run the heat race. And so Jim jumped into 124, and he goes out of there, and coming up, you went out of the pits in Riverside, and you went right up on a quarter-mile track, see. And they said, "Who's in that 124?" And there's a guy named Lucky Niemeyer, and he says, "That's Shorty Tubbs in 124." My brother's name was Jim Goodwin. Hell, he didn't know. He just gave him Shorty Tubbs, and the way they went racing, that's the way he got into it. So, anyway, that's kind of the way Kansas City was. About half cattle town, and
Yeah.
This was Riverside Stadium, and it's still there.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there. Kansas City was a big hub for cattle. How didn't any of your brothers get into the stocks?
Well, I did, and my daddy put together 7 or 8 American Royals. He worked at the Kansas City stockyard. My father,
Mm-hmm.
and see, he was born in '98. He was an old turkey. And you didn't get married till he's 33 years old. I like to never come around.
I'm 58 or almost 58, and I still ain't got married.
Oh, you haven't missed a damn thing.
Put it this way, I got a grandfather that said, he said, "You know how love is blind?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And he goes, "They say marriage is an institution?" I'd say, "Yeah." And he goes, "Who wants to go to an institution of the blind for the rest of their life?"
Very good, very good. I don't know your grandpa, but I like it.
Talk to me a little bit about your start in it then. When you got to start racing, did your brother say, "No, hold on, this is my deal. You get out of here"?
Oh no, Jim was not. Jim was the peacemaker of the family. I was a hellraiser. Like I tell you, I started with Elmer Lane. I was going to school at the Central High School. It was at Linwood in Indiana, and they had we called it at that time COE. That means work on the job, and you can get a grade out of what you do outside the school. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes right on get you where you can graduate. So I went over. I was with Elmer Lane. You're talking about I would say 1956, and I'm a sophomore in Central, and that's when you can do your COE through your senior year, see. And so I went over and introduced myself to Elmer, and we became lifelong friends. And he liked my teacher from school. They were old buddies and things like that. And so he said, "Well, I can't pay you anything." And I said, "I don't want anything." He says, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a racing engine." And he says, "We can do that." And so he had a government contract with it was called Bendix at that time out on 95th Street. And there's another little deal that was out there at 95th Street. That's where the first wooden track was at 95th and Troost. So that's been years gone by. But anyway, that was Bendix, and so it was of course it's a government work, and you had to be you couldn't be criminal because it was government stuff, So I qualified for almost all of that. And so I went to work for Elmer, and at the end of the high school diploma deal, I had a new GMC to put in my Roadster, and that's just damn near the way it happened. In my life I never traded dollars with Elmer Lane.
No kidding.
I never traded dollars with him, and I never turned him down for anything he wanted. So that's he was my father didn't go to the races, so Elmer Lane became my father, and after Elmer Lane kicked me out, I went to Junior Hauer, who I buried just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Well, he was 7-time champion of Kansas City. I mean the cat in the hat, boy. Mm-hmm. He was really a outstanding. If you get on that computer, I don't have computers, and I don't have anything but this. You're talking to me in my kitchen, and that's the only lifeline I have right here. So, in Junior Hauer, he's on that computers, and and I'm sure that you guys are computer whizzes.
I try to be, but it gets confusing from time to time.
Yeah, I'm not at all.
You're not a computer.
Oh no, they didn't have computers yet when I was in high school, so I'm up there in the age. Dan's just a youngster.
Well, hell, I'm 70. Will be the first day of February. February. I will be 77. It's been a while since I've been in school.
I go to school every day, I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but anyway, that's kind of the deal there. Everybody had a garage. Everybody that had a garage had a race car, and they had their own specialties. Junior hire was flathead Fords. Elmer Lane was straight six GMCs and Chevys and them, the straight line machines. And then there was Wayne Colby that was a carburetor man. That was his shop. He was a carburetor guy, and there was a bunch of them around town. I mean, the best. I mean, you talk about they don't have the big naughty name, but they had the big naughty brains. I'll tell you that. Ott Haggard was one of them. There was another one, Ike Peters. Him and later in life, him and Elmer Lane got together, and they had a sprint car with a GMC in it, and so anything. That's getting away from everything, but that's Kansas City.
Yeah.
They had good mechanics and parts stores and lots of machinists in the business.
A good hub for racing. Then it was like I'm trying to think of the proper term, but a good bed for it. It's because you had a lot of people that could be in the background getting the hard work done.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll get some water, maybe a beer, and kind of get ready for section number 2. We'll come back here in turn number 4 in just a little bit, and we'll continue with Ray Lee Goodwin talking about his career. We'll get into the sprint car days and winning just about everything in the battles and all the great fun that he had as a sprint car driver. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
It's checkers or wreckers as we enter turn 4 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs.
Welcome back to the front stretch, heading into turn number 4. And boy, the things you missed in the break when we were just having a chit chat with Ray a little bit. Ray, let's talk. We're talking with Ray Lee Goodwin, sprint car driver throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Won a lot of different things.
75.
75, excuse me. Stopped in 75.
Fell out of the car.
You fell out?
75. No. When you fall over, that's falling out.
Okay.
There you go.
Talk to me about getting into the sprint car division. You raced the coupes with your brother and some stocks, if I'm looking at my information right. But what got you into the sprint cars?
Well, it just you go to the state fair to run modified. And there's always a car down there that comes in from some of the other country place or another state, and he's without a driver, and you lie to him and tell him that you just won Indianapolis and put you in your car. There's nothing to it.
That's all it takes, huh?
That's all right. Yeah.
Well, it seems like it's a lot harder these days.
Oh, I don't know if it is or not. if you can drive, if some of them they can't be really, there's some of them won't drive with the best guy, But we always got along. I never had a bad car owner. I'm honest as I can be. They were all great car owners and mechanics because I'm no mechanic.
He lied to get in the seat, but he's being honest with us.
Yeah, no. Well, hell, I'm not a mechanic. I'd cross-screw a light bulb.
Walking through the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame over at Knoxville, I'm really surprised at the cars that were counted as sprint cars back in your day, because those things were just it was a glorified seat with a massive engine and no protection. How did you manage to get through a career without major injury?
I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
Huh?
No.
What happened?
The back chute. The one thing you went to Knoxville to do is to stay on your wheels. and that's the safest way to leave there, not an ambulance,
Yeah.
But no, I really, it wasn't my home track. See, when I went to Lincoln, the people at Lincoln, Nebraska, Saturday night, their home track is Knoxville. So if you're going to drive a car out of Lincoln, Nebraska, you probably ought to fall in love with Knoxville, Iowa. And we did well there, and so in that is where my career ended in 74 and 5. I had a blood clot on my optic nerve, and I lost the sight of my right eye, and then I had a blood clot on the other eye. So the people that I'd run against, they said I had them all my life. So I couldn't see at all, But anyway, that's the truth. I had blood clot on the optic nerve, and it shut off. I think my eye sees perfect. It just doesn't transmit anything back to my brain. So that's it.
You're still blind in that eye.
Yes. That's sure. That was 74, and then in 75, 51 weeks to the day, it happened again over there on the back chute, and it just the blood clot came back, and the eyesight didn't. So here we are.
Wow. And then it was pretty much doctor's orders. You were done racing.
Yeah, that was Alice Jean was my doctor. That's
too much risk. Too much risk at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my loved one. She called what the hell was it? Newspaper, Associated Press.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty. I don't know where that is, but she said Raymond Goodwin is retired. And the hell, I couldn't get a ride to the grocery store.
She was your retirement.
Yeah, she was.
There was no choice.
No, she was a great lady. She's still with me right now, but we're having a little trouble. She was a school teacher all her life, and she taught me everything she knows. So
good.
We're good. We're good.
Had the eye not happened, how many do you think you could have gone on racing for another 15, 20 years?
Hell, I'd probably have an engine on a wheelchair,
Well, we just lost a guy a couple of weeks ago that he never retired. He just passed away. Bill Rick used to race coupes and all throughout this area.
Race some USAC and some, what they call it, the new car IMCA back in the 70s and stuff. He was 78, 79 years old, something like that.
Yeah, well, I'll be 77 February 1st.
Yeah. Yeah, he never stopped racing. He raced as a part of a good old time racing association that raced them.
Yeah,
old
I know them.
coupes.
They come to Kansas City and places like that.
They do. Yeah, so that would have been you then. You wouldn't have stopped racing.
Well, I probably would have. I tell you what, if you can't be competitive, then it's really not a lot of fun.
Yeah,
really
that's kind of where I was leading with that, because there's definitely two different fields. There's guys that go out there and race for fun, and they could race for 50, 60 years and have a good time. But then there's the guys.
That's what Kinzer did.
Yeah, then there's the guys
Kenny Schrader.
That they like to go out and they in order to enjoy the racing, they have to be competitive.
Yeah, that's one I was saying about Wolf and Steve Kinzer and Swindow and there's lots of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't. They just keep winning. That's it. There's some boy I saw him race. His last race was Smith. He's Danny Smith, and hell, I raced with his father. So it's a pretty good operation.
You were telling us during the break that you're there in the Salina Fairgrounds, that you live pretty close to it. Do you get out to the track quite often?
Yeah, I walk. It's a walking distance from my home, and but they don't. They just had a few races last year. I was sitting with the promoter. He's out of his name's Olson, Mark Olson, and he's coming back for next year. So there'll be racing out here at the fairgrounds. I don't know him very well.
Wasn't he? I was going to say, I think he was involved for a while with Lakeside Speedway, if I'm not mistaken.
It could have been, sure. It could have been.
There was an Olson there.
No, I think that's a different guy.
Okay.
But that's the name. The Olson was up there. This gentleman's out of Terre Haute, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's a pavement shooting man. He's a driver, and He's from, I think he told me Michigan today. I think he was talking about was raised in Michigan.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll break him in.
Did you
Send him down here. We'll break him in.
Did you ever have the opportunity to go race up in NASCAR?
Never NASCAR. USAC was a big deal when we were racing.
Mm-hmm.
If you could hunt with the USACers, you could just damn near hunt with anybody.
Yeah.
That's like today. If you can go hunting with World of Outlaws, when you come to your home track, they all go hide because they are very, very good and very, very intelligent racers.
Yeah, USAC was a stepping stone for the sprint car guys, and then to try and get into Indy cars. Did you ever get an opportunity in an Indy car?
I went to Indianapolis in 1968 and did not get an opportunity, and I was not successful in USAC to speak of. I mean, there were some good nights, but they were if you're not in the top three. You know, I tell you, do you ever hear of Judd Larson?
Oh yeah, I've heard of Judd.
All right. Tell you what, Judd Larson he was a union man, you know. He had the best deal that I ever heard about a driver and a car owner. He would tell the car owner, he says, I get 50% for first and second. I get 40% for third and fourth. Back and forth, I don't need you and you don't need me.
Huh?
Isn't that a good way to put it?
Yeah, it is. But
it's kind of like raising the urinals. It keeps everybody on their toes.
Yeah, it really sounds like something we interviewed somebody that I know you're familiar with, Roger Rager, a year ago.
Yeah,
and that sounds like something
kid.
Roger would have done.
Well, sure. I tell you what, Roger was at my last race, one lap from when I got hurt. I mean, he had nothing to do with it. But Roger the Dodger was, I mean, he was really a good racer. And we was having a rough time at Knoxville. The track was. We weren't having any trouble. We were just trying to sit up straight in the car. But going into 3 and 4, I always called them chicane. It was just a up and down and a little bit of a bad spot. So I run Roger this lap before that I got hurt. I run Roger down in there, and he was in the 44 car out of another Smith car out of Lincoln, and I think that's true. Well, anyway, I put him in these holes about just a damn near as big as a 55-gallon barrel, and he bounced up in the air. And as I looked by, I went by him on the outside, and his car was doing a 360 about 3 foot off the ground.
Oh.
It landed, and nobody got hurt and everything. But the next time, I had Levitt. We started the race again. Now this is my last lap, so I hope you're not running out of stuff there on the machine.
Oh no, we got plenty of recording tape to go.
We're going down the back chute. This is on a restart, and I'm taking Mr. Levitt down there to the chicane to turn him loose. Only before we get to the chicane, his right rear wheel hooked a rut going in, and it jerked the car around out of his hands. It went to my right. Of course, there was no place for me to go, only upside down. And it was a racing accident. It was, it tore my head off, but it was a racing accident. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the 40 car, he was in we called them the farmer's car, number 40, and they were from Iowa. Their car jumped in the air. The front end came over in front of them. I was in the 4X, came over in front of the 4X, and we call them a bad shunt. And that's what they used to say over in the foreign countries when you had a wreck, was a shunt. Well, this was a hell of a shunt, partner. I'll tell you that. So anyway, that's the end of the racing. Now we go from any place to there.
Well, let's wrap it up there. Maybe we'll come back in a few years and we'll finish up the retirement years.
Well, we won't have any. There's a lot more. I tell you about talking about winning and losing in auto racing. After you've raced, they're all your friends, and if you talk about beating so and so, you don't have to bring it up anymore again because if you win, you win. If you don't, you run second or run. As long as we're out here to talk to each other and have a good time. Mm-hmm. You've had a successful life.
Well, that's exactly. We had Bob Kaziski in the studio last week, and
know him very well.
Yeah, we did a little memorial show with the racer we told you passed recently, and that's what he said. He goes, we'd go out and bang fenders on the racetrack, but then we'd sit down and have a good time when we were done.
That's correct. They came down. I was helping at Lakeside Stadium after my career was over. They were a great bunch of boys, and the daddy was as good as they can. They're as good a racer as there was.
Yep.
Ray, we appreciate your time. You have a great rest of your day, and we hope to talk to you soon when we're swinging through Salina.
You're through Salina. Well, you have a good time. There's
Sedalia.
Races over there. Sedalia, Missouri. That's Salina's, Kansas.
I'll keep him in line. Don't worry, Ray.
He's my
I tell you
navigator.
what, thank you, and I tell you, wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. May God walk with you.
Absolutely.
You
Thank
too,
you, Ray.
Ray.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was just about the perfect interview to lead off the Legends of the Dirt series.
Yeah, if we should have had him a couple years ago, like him and Roger back to back, or on the same one.
Yeah. Together, they could have fought about races. And
We would have had to done a 2-week show.
Well, that is the kickoff to the Legends of the Dirt series, and we want to say a big thank you to Joe Kaziski, Bob Kaziski, Lee Ackerman, who helped us put together this list, and everybody who helps with the Legends of the Dirt series. Here's some of the guys we have coming up, and I don't want to tell you in the order because it's in flux. It really, we have a couple of things that we try to get the guys to air at a certain date. Like, we're trying to get Donnie Schatz for the January 8th show, but that just depends on if he'll actually return my phone calls, which so far has not been successful.
To us. Exactly.
Right, but we want to air him that week because that's the week before the Chili Bowl. So to get you ready for that, we'll talk to you then. And then we're working on getting Scott Bloomquist, which has never been a problem in the past. I don't see a problem with it. We were going to have him on for next Sunday, but because I expect he'll be busy with the Dirt Late Model Nationals down in St. Louis, then we're going to push him back into the couple of weeks. But you heard Ray Goodwin today, Scott Bloomquist to come, along with Jonathan Davenport, Donnie Schatz, Dave Darlin, Jason Hughes and Rodney Combs, Richie Lewis, Jeff Akey, and Earl Pierce Jr. Now, those are the guys we have scheduled to be on the show in the coming weeks. You can head over to Facebook, like us on the Facebook page, and we will get you up to date each Friday and let you know who's coming on for that weekend show. That's been the front stretch. Dirk, do appreciate your time. It's been a good day in the studio, and we are just, 74 days, 75 days away from Daytona.
2.5 months, roughly.
Not long at all.
And Dale Jr.'s return.
We'll be back next weekend to do it all over again. Again, make sure you like us on Facebook so that you can keep up to date with the Legend of the Dirt series. Get over to Joe's Karting this week to get involved in the Hammerhead drawing. Get over there before Saturday when the drawing happens, and you can get entered into it. And while you're over there, you might as well head over to Quaker Steak and Lube and enjoy the Midwest's best wings.
And again, we do take donations, so if you win that Hammerhead and decide it's
The
just
official
not
watering
your
hole
thing,
of the front stretch has you
drop it
covered
off
any
over
day of the
there.
week with the best wings, great
For
burgers,
Dirt
and
News, I'm Dan
amazing
Samuels. This has
steaks.
been the Front Stretch,
Each
presented by
weekday
Joe's
from
Karting
4 to
on
6 is
AM
happy
590
hour,
Omaha,
featuring
ESPN
$1 off
Radio.
draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95. And the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Got to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.